Hello students, welcome to today's biology class. In the last class, we discussed about monohybrid cross. Hope you all understood monohybrid cross. Let's first recollect what is a monohybrid cross. So Mendel selected 7 different characters for his experiments, and some of the characters which he selected were, you know that, 7 characters: stem height, flower position, flower color, seed shape, pod color and pod shape. These were the 7 different characters. And Mendel conducted experiments with all these characters, and he recorded all the data after conducting his experiments. All the data he recorded, and he analyzed that, and after analyzing the results of his experiments, he came to certain conclusions. And what are the conclusions that he came to? So some of the conclusions, let's see. The first conclusion: in the F1 generation, only one parental character is expressed, right? So when a tall pea plant was crossed with a dwarf pea plant, in the F1, what happened? All the plants produced were tall. That was his first finding. In the F1 generation, only one parental character. Which parental character? The dominant parental character was only expressed. The second conclusion: in the F2 generation, both the parental characters reappeared. So in the F1 generation, only one parental character was expressed, and in the F2 generation, both the parental characters were expressed. And the contrasting traits did not show blending neither in F1 nor in F2. Very important point. That is, in the F2 generation, when he got both the parental characters, both the contrasting traits, they did not show any blending. That means the dominant character, that is the tallness, was expressed as tallness itself in the F2. And dwarfness was expressed as dwarf plant in the F2. There was no plant with an intermediate height. That's the meaning of the third point. That is, the contrasting traits, that is tallness and dwarfness, did not show blending neither in F1 nor in F2. And lastly, something in the sense, what Mendel called as factors. He found that something is stably passed on from parents to offspring without undergoing any change. This was the most important finding of Mendel. That is, there are certain things which are passed on from the parents to the offspring without any blending, and he called those something as factors, because during his time the concept of gene was not known. So these were the 4 conclusions drawn by Mendel after conducting his experiments. Hope it's clear to you all. So once again fast, the first point is, in the F1 generation, only one parental character was expressed. Which parental character was that? That was the dominant one. And in the F2 generation, both the parental characters were expressed. Third point, the contrasting traits did not show any blending, neither in F1 nor in F2. And lastly, something, what he called as factors, is stably passed on. It is passed on stably from parents to the offspring without undergoing any change. So these are the 4 conclusions drawn by Mendel. From these conclusions, Mendel derived or proposed 2 important laws of inheritance. The first one, law of dominance, and the second one, law of segregation, also called as law of purity of gametes. So let's see those laws. So the first law is law of dominance. From the word itself, it's very clear. Now you must have understood what is dominance. Right. So dominant gene is the one which is expressed in the presence of the same gene also. So law of dominance, there are 3 important points that you have to remember. The first point, characters are the first point of law of dominance is characters are controlled by discrete units controlled by discrete units called factors. Second point, factors occur in pairs. Factors occur in pairs. And the third point, in a dissimilar pair of factors, one member of the pair dominates the other. These are the three important points of law of dominance. So the first point, characters are controlled by discrete units. Discrete units means distinct units, what he called as factors. That's the first point. Law of dominance states that characters are controlled by discrete units called factors. Second point, factors occur in pairs. What's the meaning of that? You know that every chromosomes are found in pairs, right? There are 23 pairs of chromosomes in the case of human beings. So chromosomes, homologous chromosomes are always found in pairs. So, and the alleles or the genes are found on specific point on the chromosome. So these factors, they occur in pairs. This was the finding of Mendel. Factors always occur in pairs. And third one, in a dissimilar pair of factors, that is, example, capital T, small t. This is a dissimilar pair of factor. One member of the pair, that is in this case capital T, dominates the other one, that is small t. The one which dominates, that is called as a dominant factor, and the one which gets suppressed, that is called as the recessive factor. So these are the 3 points, very, very important from examination point of view, law of dominance. So law of dominance states that characters are, note this points, characters are controlled by discrete units called factors. Factors always occur in pairs. And the third point, in a dissimilar pair of factors, one member of the pair always dominates the other. The one which dominates is called as the dominant gene or the dominant factor, and the other which gets suppressed is called as a recessive factor. So that is all about law of dominance. Now let's see the next law, that is law of segregation, also called as law of purity of gametes. Law of segregation or law of purity of gametes. Now, what does this law state? This law states that whenever a pair of factors are brought together in a hybrid, whenever a pair of factors are brought together in a hybrid, the factors separate or segregate without blending. The factors separate or segregate without blending during the time of gamete formation. This is the law of segregation or law of purity of gametes. So once again, I'll write that first and then I'll explain. So law of segregation states that whenever a pair of factors are brought together in a hybrid, they segregate or separate. How do they segregate? Without blending. formation. Very important law, that is law of segregation. This law states that whenever a pair of factors are brought together in a hybrid, right? Whenever a pair of factors are brought together in a hybrid, what do the factors do? They separate or segregate. How? Without any blending. And when does this happen? During the time of gamete formation. We know that during the time of gamete formation, meiosis takes place. So during meiosis, what happens is the factors, they separate or segregate. Now let me explain this with the help of the same experiment what we have discussed. That is, when a tall pea plant was crossed with a dwarf pea plant, right? The genotype of tall pea plant is written as capital T, crossed with small t, right? What happened? From the tall parent, the hybrid received only, so the gamete produced was capital T, and here the gamete produced was small t. Okay, so from the tall parent, the hybrid received only capital T, and from the dwarf parent, the gamete received small t. Right? Now, so if this is a hybrid, both the factors are brought together. Which two factors? Capital T and small t. Capital T got from the dominant parent and small t got from the recessive parent. Now, when they are brought together in the hybrid, what happens? During the time of gamete formation, now when this capital T, small t is allowed to undergo self-pollination, right? That is capital T, small t cross capital T, small t. When it was allowed to undergo self-pollination, what happened? This parent produced two gametes, right? This parent also produced two gametes. That means here, what happened? The factors separate. That is capital T and small t, they separated as it is without any blending, so that the gamete received only one factor. Very important. The gametes did not receive both the factors. One gamete received only one factor, either the dominant factor or the recessive factor. The gamete, during the time of gamete formation, what happened? The factors separated without any blending. This is called as law of segregation. Now, this law is also called as law of purity of gametes. Why? Because the gametes formed were all pure. Why were they pure? Because the gametes received only one factor. They did not receive both the factors. Gametes received only one factor at a time. So that is why this law is also called as law of purity of gametes. Gametes were pure. There was no blending of the factors. The factors were all pure. The gametes received only one gamete at a time. So this law is called as law of segregation or law of purity of gametes. So hope this is clear. So from a monohybrid cross, Mendel derived two laws. One is law of dominance and the second one law of segregation or law of purity of gametes. So you may get a question, why is law of segregation called as law of purity of gametes? What is the reason? Because the gametes received only one factor at a time. The gametes were pure. After formation of from the hybrid, the factors separated or segregated during the time of gamete formation. That is the reason why it is called as law of purity of gametes. Hope it's clear? Right. Now let's move on to the next topic, that is back cross or test cross. Right. Now what is the meaning of a back cross? A back cross is a cross between F1 hybrid cross between F1 hybrid and any one parent It can be either a dominant parent or a recessive parent. So what is a back cross? A back cross is a cross between F1 hybrid and any one of the parent, either the dominant parent or the recessive parent. Now, another term that you have to remember is test cross. Test cross a back cross. But there is a specific point that you have to remember here. That is, test cross is a cross between, it is a cross between F1 hybrid and its recessive parent. Not with any other recessive parent. Its recessive parent means from which the hybrid is formed. Okay, that is called as a test cross. So what is a test cross? Test cross is between F1 hybrid and the recessive parent. Whereas back cross can be between F1 hybrid and a dominant parent or a recessive parent. So when it is with a recessive parent, it is called as a test cross. Now what is the significance of test cross? Very important from examination point of view. Many times this question was repeatedly asked. That is, what is test cross? What is its significance? The significance of test cross is, a test cross is done to identify the genotype of F1 hybrid. So why is a test cross done? A test cross is done to identify the genotype of the F1 hybrid. Genotype of the F1 hybrid. Why the genotype of the F1 hybrid? See, when tall plants and dwarf plants were crossed, what happened? In the F1 generation, he got all the tall plants. So phenotypically all were tall. But whether the tallness is due to homozygous condition or heterozygous condition, that we cannot ascertain with the phenotype, from the phenotype. By looking at external evidence, we cannot find out whether the tallness is because of homozygous condition or because of heterozygous condition, isn't it? It can be either capital T, or it can be capital T, small t. In both the cases, the phenotype is tall. So in order to identify the genotype of the F1 hybrid, this test cross is done. So the significance of test cross is, a test cross is done to identify the genotype, not phenotype, genotype of the F1 hybrid. Hope it's clear. So that is the significance of a test cross. Hope you understood what is a back cross and what is a test cross. Right. Now, all test crosses are back crosses, but all back crosses are not test crosses. Have you understood what I said? All test crosses are back crosses, but all back crosses are not test crosses. Justify the statement. You may get a question like this. Justify the statement. All test crosses are back crosses, but all back crosses are not test crosses. What is the reason? Because a back cross can be between F1 hybrid and any one parent, right? Either dominant parent or a recessive parent. But test cross is only between F1 hybrid and the recessive parent. Only the recessive parent. If it is with a dominant parent, we cannot call it as a test cross. That is the reason why a test cross is a back cross, but all back crosses are not test crosses. Hope it's clear. So that is all about back cross and test cross. Now let me give you the schematic representation of a test cross. Now let's see the schematic representation of a test cross. So in your NCERT textbook, they have given the example of flower color in pea plants, right? Now in pea plants, two types of flowers were found. One is violet color flower and the other one white color flowers. Okay, and violet color is considered as dominant over white color. Okay, so what is a test cross? Test cross is a cross between F1 hybrid and recessive parent. Now, if the F1 is heterozygous, what will be the result? If the F1 is homozygous, what will be the result? Both the situations, let us see. So first let us see if the F1 hybrid is heterozygous. Okay, so F1 hybrid is heterozygous. So two conditions are there. Now here we are taking flower color, right? So there are two colors as I have told you. One is violet, which is dominant, and the other one is white, which is recessive. Okay, so in a test cross, what will be the F1 hybrid? So for violet, let us take it as capital W, and for white, let us take it as small w. Okay, now, so F1 hybrid will be what? It will be capital F1 hybrid cross recessive parent. F1 hybrid crossed with recessive parent. So F1 hybrid will be what? Capital W, small w. Why I am taking this capital W, small w? Because we are taking the condition as heterozygous. So capital W, small w cross small w because it is recessive parent. So what will be the gametes produced? This one produces two gametes. Which are they? One will be capital W, another one will be small w. This one produces all the gametes with only one type, that is small w itself. Okay, so what will be the possibility of genotype? What will be the genotype of the progeny F2 generation? One will be capital W, small w. The second one will be again capital W, small w. This one will be small w, and this one also will be small w. So this we can write with the help of a checkerboard. Right. So I'll write here the checkerboard. Capital W, small w. As we have written in the case of monohybrid cross, same here, writing here. And the recessive parent will be what? Both will be having small w. So here, so what will be this capital W and this small w, right? Now this small w, both are small w here. Here it will be again capital W, small w, and here it will be both small w, small w. So what will be the phenotype of this? This will be violet in color, isn't it? This will be violet. What about this? This will be white. This will be again violet. And this will be again white. So 50% of the plants produced will be having violet flowers and 50% of the plants will be having white flowers. If the F1 hybrid is heterozygous. Okay, so what is the significance of this cross, test cross? When we conduct a test cross, if the F1 hybrid is heterozygous, we get a ratio of 1:1. 1:1. 1%, that is out of 100 plants, 50 plants will be having dominant character and the other 50% will be having recessive character. This shows that F1 hybrid is heterozygous. Hope it's clear. Now let's see the other condition also. Which is the other condition? Homozygous condition. So if it is homozygous condition, what happens? So homozygous, that is if the F1 hybrid was homozygous. Same character let us take, that is violet and white only. So if the F1 hybrid was homozygous, then what will happen? F1 hybrid will be capital W. That means all the flowers will be violet. And recessive parent is small w. Right? So from here all the gametes will be capital W and here all the gametes will be small w. So we get, this produces 2 capital W. This produces 2 small w, right? Now when we cross this, what happens? Capital W, small w. Then next will be this, that is again capital W, small w. Here capital W, small w, right? And this one capital W, small w. What does it mean? All the plants produced will be having white flowers only. all the plants will be having white flowers. That means if all the plants produce only the dominant character, when a test cross is done, that shows that F1 hybrid is homozygous. This is how the genotype of F1 hybrid can be determined or it can be found out. So the significance of a test cross is, a test cross is done in order to find out whether the F1 hybrid, genotype of F1 hybrid is heterozygous or homozygous. Hope it's clear to you all. So very important from an examination point of view. So today we have discussed about the conclusions which Mendel reached after conducting his experiments, after conducting his monohybrid experiments, and then the laws which were proposed by Mendel after from his monohybrid cross. That is the two laws. One is law of dominance, another one law of segregation, also called as law of purity of gametes. After that, we have discussed what is a back cross and what is a test cross and what is its significance. So all these are very important from examination point of view. So what we have discussed today, you may get a 2-mark question. Write the conclusions drawn by Mendel from his monohybrid cross. The second question, explain or state law of dominance. Third question, state law of segregation or law of purity of gametes. The fourth question, what is a back cross and what is a test cross? Now, next question. All test crosses are back crosses, but all back crosses are not test crosses. Justify the statement. Then, what is test cross? What is its significance? Write the schematic representation of a test cross. So, if a question is asked, write the schematic representation of a test cross, you have to write about when the F1 hybrid is heterozygous. If you take that example and write, and below that you have to write, if the F2 generation, if the test cross gives the result as 1:1, that is, if the dominant character and the recessive character is found in the ratio of 1:1, we can be sure that the F1 hybrid is heterozygous. If it was homozygous, then only the dominant character would have appeared, right? So that is all about back cross and test cross. Hope you all understood what we discussed today. So that's all for today's class.